We reached the closing session of the conference on the legacy of Shmuel Eisenstadt, commemorating the 100th anniversary of his birth. The previous sessions dealt with only 3 topics that Eisenstadt studied: democracy, religion, and Israeli society. This last session will focus exclusively and directly on Eisenstadt's legacy, achievements, contributions to the social sciences and humanities. In addition, statements will be also made about him as a person, as a colleague, and as a family member. Before turning to our 3 speakers, let me make two remarks. One remark is my view of Eisenstadt as a scholar. He was an extraordinary scholar in every sense of the word. First, his work was not only empirical, but also theoretical. He studied in detail specific cases, but also generalized and constructed models of societies and models of change. Second, while his primary discipline is sociology, his research covered many other fields, especially anthropology, political science, history, religion, philosophy, and law. His publications are cited in many disciplines. Third, Eisenstadt studied many critical issues, including the political systems of empires, modernization, multiple modernities, exile-age civilizations, comparative study of civilizations, comparative study of revolutions, comparative study of democracies, multiculturalism, age groups, immigration, and immigrant absorption. Fourth, Eisenstadt's work encompasses many countries. Israeli sociologists usually study Israeli society, but Eisenstadt studied many other countries. Fifth, it is hard to believe, but he studied a wide range of historical periods, ranging over several millenniums, as well as contemporary times. And sixth and last, Eisenstadt is comparativist in almost all his studies. He compared societies and periods of change. Comparative study is science in its best, the only real way leading to causality. It is puzzling how one person can do all this in a lifetime. He was highly talented. One of his students told me that Eisenstadt could read an entire page of text just in a single glance. When scholars abroad think of Israeli social scientists, Eisenstadt is certainly the only scholar on their mind. Israel has not produced a sociologist matching his stature. His high scholarly standing is reminiscent of Max Weber. Now let me go to my second personal remark. I would like to tell you how Eisenstadt impacted my career as a sociologist. In 1960, I started my undergraduate studies at Berl University when I was 18 years old, before serving in the army. Psychology was my major, and sociology was my minor. After the first year, I became strongly disappointed with the highly regarded psychology, where the dominant discourse revolved around theories of how mice learn to find their way in a maze. I liked much more the unpopular sociology, whose discourse consisted of society, culture, norms, institutions, immigration, social divisions, social problems. Several courses challenged me strongly. In the introductory course to sociology, we studied a textbook by Eisenstadt and Ben David. The course on immigration and immigrant absorption focused on Eisenstadt studies of this phenomena in Israel. The seminar on theory centered on the functionist theory of Parsons and Eisenstadt. The comprehensive course on Israeli society used a book by Eisenstadt with this title. I soon identified Eisenstadt as the star in my courses that were taught by teachers who were students of Eisenstadt in the Hebrew University. Yet, I felt deeply uneasy with Eisenstadt teachings. They stood in contradiction with my life experiences as a non-European Jewish immigrant who spent his early life in an Israeli transit camp, Ma'abara, who was personally witnessed and identified with the ethnic protest, and who saw how the Labour Party, Mapai of the time, misused its power against both the non-European immigrants and against its political opponents on left and right. I also noticed that concepts like power relations, ethnic discrimination, exclusion, conflict, protest, dissent were hardly mentioned in Eisenstadt teachings. Eisenstadt's undergraduate teachings were nevertheless a real inspiration and challenged me strongly. When I was a junior, my third year, at the age of 22, I decided to become a sociologist who will dedicate his life to find alternatives to Eisenstadt functionist theory, approach to Israeli society, and analysis of immigration to Israel. It was highly pretentious and probably unrealistic on my part. I also decided to do doctoral studies abroad, not at the Hebrew University, the only university in Israel at the time with doctoral studies in sociology, and where Eisenstadt was the dominant figure. In the 60s, I won a doctoral degree in sociology at UCLA. In the 70s, got an appointment as a lecturer at the University of Haifa, and since then, I have led a career as a critical sociologist. The title of my first book was Israel, Pluralism and Conflict, well reflected my criticism and the alternative to Eisenstadt's analysis of Israeli society. I owe my choice of sociology to Eisenstadt. He also inspired my critical sociology. Despite our disagreements, I had high regard for him and for his works. Our relations were cordial. When he turned 80, I was invited to speak in conferences and to contribute papers to collections in his honor. Finally,
Several years before his death, I wrote an essay review of his final book on Israeli society, תמורות בחברה הישראלית. He was very pleased with my review. But did not like my comparison of his mainstream perspective of Israeli society with critical perspective and radical perspective of Israel, which the last 2 pages of my review. He also did not like my rejection of his analysis of Israel as a Western state and as a liberal democracy.